Hello, it's Brad Laurie of BlockchainBrad, and today a very special update for OriginTrail. And to do that, we have all the founders right here with us to explain everything that they've been doing since we last spoke. So to clarify, we have Ziga, Thomas, and Brenemir here to really let us know exactly what they're doing, and they have skill sets in different areas of their team. So gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Let's start with you, Ziga. Thank you again, mate.
Thank you, Brad, for inviting us.
You're very welcome.
Here again, and there's been quite a lot of things going on within OriginTrail. It's going to be very fun to catch up with you.
Can't wait, mate. And also to Brenemir, we've talked a lot at length in different interviews, and you're back to talk tech. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us, and yeah, looking forward to catching up.
Likewise, mate. And also to Thomas, with your big business and tech brain, thank you for being here to explain all the things that you're building as you really make sure that this happens for blockchain and real business as you build out for many years to come.
I appreciate the kind words, man. And it's great to be here. And the black colors coordination, that's was not intentional. We just great minds think alike, I guess.
Exactly. And I love the backgrounds as well. Nice plug for OriginTrail there, boys. Now, for all of you wondering, this is entirely free. There's no untoward intention. Everything is about education. And this is all about trying to uplift the value of blockchain as we move into real use cases and far beyond that. So let's explore exactly how OriginTrail have been developing, have been iterating, and have been making sure that they are relevant right across the globe. Let's start with the very exclusive points with regard to, I guess, something very special, Ziga. I want to start with something big at the beginning rather than go through generic things. What's something that's really going to wake us up when it comes to what OriginTrail is doing right now that sets you apart from everyone?
Well, there are a lot of things. Just yesterday, actually this morning, it was the World Economic Forum that tweeted about the partnership of ours and the applications that we have built for the COVID circumstances. We actually are collecting data, open data about COVID-19 essential supplies, so medical supplies, masks, and we have collected some 16,000 SKUs, so product data on those crucial supplies. And this is something that's very much interesting also to the WHO, to the likes of the World Economic Forum. And this is just one of the things. What we're actually trying to do overall as OriginTrail is to improve transparency and trusted knowledge exchange in supply chains. And this is going to improve both sustainability of supply chains, pardon me, and also hopefully the product safety and product quality in the future. And OriginTrail has been around for 10 years when we started the whole thing as a rudimentary product. And then when we started using blockchain, we saw that blockchain is not immediately reconcilable with supply chains. And this is when we started using Ethereum, and we constructed the open source protocol OriginTrail. And now we're quite excited because we have this new epoch for OriginTrail, which is a multi-chain epoch, as we saw that not only using Ethereum might not be enough for supply chains because of scalability, because of cost. And this is why we're working with the likes of Polkadot. We're also working with the XDAI team right now. And the first kind of step towards the multi-chain is going to be to enable OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph to also work within the XDAI environment, and then also transitioning to Polkadot. So we're going to have multiple blockchains. And this is going to help us tremendously improve the efficiency gains of using blockchain for supply chains, and also is going to allow us to use OriginTrail for more purposes than just supply chains, like knowledge economy. So people are going to be able to issue knowledge tokens and allow others to access the data. And this is very much exciting. And we have partners, global partners that are supporting us with that, like British Standards Institution. Through them, we work with the biggest retailers in the US, like Walmart, Trader Joe, to exchange auditing reports on some 20,000 Chinese companies mostly. So it's pretty exciting. It's been a pretty exciting year last year and the beginning of this year since we last spoke, both development-wise and adoption-wise.
Absolutely. Now take a breath, because that was a lot of information in one response. And I have to say, wow, I wasn't expecting all of that in one go, but clearly you're passionate about what you've achieved. So let's pull that back. Thomas, I'm going to go to you. And one of the things that was really exciting, aside from the multi-chain, which I want to get to with Brenemir, was the business aspect with the forums. I really want to talk about that and what it means in terms of business, because we don't talk enough, I think, blockchain related business. You've been around, as Ziga said, for 10 years building this. But the reality is that there's a big narrative and push for DeFi, but then there's a whole other world out there for business-related movement, for business-related development. So Thomas, take it away, extend on that World Forum and how that relates to you building.
Yeah, I mean, it's for us, it was always like that, because it's we came really to blockchain space from the enterprise sector in a way. The 10 years of our history wasn't all tied to the blockchain world. Rather, we started off really solving quote unquote real world problems with connecting different legacy systems, to create greater visibility in supply chains, just tackling all the very hands-on problems that you encounter when you do something like that. And those really fall not only in the technological bracket, which is a huge one. So you have companies spending hundreds of millions of just solving the legacy system interconnectivity and interoperability, and all these things were kind of encapsulated the learnings in OriginTrail. But then we also have the other side, which is organizational challenges, which we're addressing. Is how can you really connect this multi-organizational setting that people can actually work together versus kind of being in their own silo and closed down, which is where the decentralized aspect comes in play heavily, because the importance of not having the kind of a single ownership or single aggregator is really important. A decentralized network can really address that. And it was very interesting to see the positive responses we were seeing from the companies. And in a way, an unprecedented level of adopting the public network infrastructure when we're looking at OriginTrail ecosystem. It's hard to find kind of a parallel of such movements or shifts being achieved, then especially with the use of public infrastructure, which is kind of in our eyes why you really want to go down the blockchain route, is to have this decentralized aspect capability. And like Giga mentioned already, so we've done a lot of work with our partners, which include the British Standard Institution. So it's all about how can we increase the integrity of different claims that are being made. How can we make them a verifiable claim? How can we connect them together? And the SCAN, which is the Importers Association of over 40% of US imports, actually works with BSI and OriginTrail to exchange the audit report data on over 20,000 overseas factories, which is a very crucial step in the importing process of anything that basically goes into the US to ensure its safety. And it's not just the US. So the similar approach is also going to be replicated within the UK, as well as other different adoption opportunities across the globe. And again, this is also just kind of like one use case that we've been seeing. We've been working with BSI on some of the other interesting use cases as well, for them internally, as well as for some of their clients. Yeah, like it doesn't stop with the assurance and compliance, because of the OriginTrail being a foundational technology and very widely adopted. It's usable in a lot of different contexts, such as Swiss Federal Railways, for example, are utilizing it to create better visibility across the industry even. So how can you really connect different stakeholders within the industry together without them having to cede their governance over their data? So that's a very important piece around the Swiss Federal Railways project, basically, which allows a better exchange of data to ensure greater safety in rail travel, which is a very important topic as well.
Right.
Extending from that, we were working with Oracle, and so feel free to stop me. So
I might stop you there, because I'm thinking about giving you both Oscars, you two at the bottom, because clearly you know how to talk and you're very passionate about your role and what you do in OriginTrail. Now, Brenemir, I want to go to you for a moment, because clearly there's so many different key developments, and Thomas will talk forever on them. But let's go back to the blockchain conversation, the discussion on DeFi specifically. Now, that is a word used thrown around, not lightly either. Now, I've seen some debates with regard to your position. I even saw the likes of one of the key members of Baseline, I think, and there was some discussion and you were offering some key responses there. What I wanted to ask you was more the context of DeFi as you build out with legacy businesses, with models that are right around the world where you're engaging, you're working with them. How does DeFi and all the revolutionary tech you're building relate to real business that isn't? Talk us through that.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, and I'll try to be short. But essentially, it comes down to I'll go back to the roots, the history. 10 years ago, we were solving pretty much a lot of the same challenges as companies are experiencing today. Yet over the years, a lot of the tooling has been progressing. New tools have been shown up, like blockchain, and then there's always kind of this challenge, like, do you really know which is the problem that you kind of take this tool as a hammer and you kind of apply it to the problem, or the other way? Do you have the tool and then you're looking for problems? And what I believe is one of the key reasons why OriginTrail has been growing and getting adoption as much as it is because we went from the first route. So we were really deep into the problems, and then as time went, we found solutions to some of them in blockchain, for example, or in the knowledge graph technology. And for example, for those of you who do not know, OriginTrail itself is not a blockchain. It's actually a decentralized knowledge graph, which is something that is an evolution of knowledge graph technology that is used by companies like Amazon, Uber, Google for search, and so on. And it's actually vastly different from blockchain. So when we talk about components of blockchain technology like DeFi, within the OriginTrail ecosystem, they are necessarily connected with the notion of knowledge. And to really try to explain it really briefly what we mean by knowledge and what is regarded as knowledge in today's digital world is really highly structured linked data. So that would mean, sometimes people would say triplets. That means certain relationships are explained directly in the data itself. So for example, those would be some subject-object-predicate relations. And there's a huge standardized technology from the W3C consortium around that. But the whole point there being is that instead of just getting a bunch of raw data, you can actually get highly structured, machine readable, and actually data that's actionable because you can infer some knowledge out of it.
Right. Well, I'm going to stop you there, because one of the things I really want to impress upon the public is to make sure they understand what you said, not a blockchain, but also you have that key decentralized knowledge technology. Can you just reiterate what that is again?
Decentralized knowledge graph.
Okay, so the decentralized knowledge graph, what I wanted to ask you though is, so when you go out and you try and really pitch for a key value proposition, that decentralized element of the knowledge graph is a value proposition in and of itself. So does that fit in the context of DeFi? Because whilst on a blockchain, you do differentiate between yourselves and all other legacy models when you really showcase what you can do for blockchain for this kind of technology in relation to supply chains.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's when it comes to having such knowledge represented in the DeFi ecosystem, you all of a sudden get into the realm of knowledge tokens, like Tomasz mentioned, the knowledge wallets, knowledge marketplaces, and then even knowledge tenders. These are some of the new tools being developed actually for a while in the OriginTrail ecosystem and actually implemented. And the key proposition there being that these new knowledge tokens allow certain additional things you can do with knowledge, like sell them on a marketplace or sell part of it on a marketplace, while still having it decentralized and verifiable according to something called the verifiable credentials data standard, also by W3C. So think of it as kind of in the context of supply chains, think of it as a global Google for supply chains, where anybody can purchase any piece of knowledge or data from another company, which is verifiable, so they can be sure that this statement is really as in its original form, and they can use tokens for it. So, and when it comes to that, this whole economy that then pops up. All of the services that we traditionally, let's say, see in the DeFi world, like liquidity provisioning for such knowledge assets, things like automated market makers that would allow someone to signal on the quality of some source of information, because at the end of the game, that is where it ends up happening, that we have trouble. When you look at on a high level, look at problems in the media today and such statements around, let's say, the COVID vaccine, there's a lot of sort of shady or totally wrong information going around, and it's really hard to check the source. With such technology, you're able to check the source, you're able to purchase it, you're able to monetize quality and trusted information, which today is not as possible. And but not just around in COVID. For example, the rail case that we mentioned is one of the very interesting cases, because a rail industry, let's say in Europe, is not one company. It's a lot of companies working together. It's a decentralized infrastructure by nature of itself. When you have a train traveling from Switzerland to, I don't know, Spain, it's a bunch of things and countries and people involved in between that somehow interact with this train, with the parts. They're responsible for security. So all of these systems by nature fit really well to the decentralized model. And that means decentralized access control. That means one of the tools for that is knowledge tokens, but also other tools around them that I mentioned. And then also data exchange, because the whole point there, for example, for Swiss Railway as one of our clients, is to make sure that everything is as safe as possible. And they want to know everything. They want to know how things have been welded, serviced, where their parts come from, and all of this really makes sense to fit into a connected data structure like the knowledge graph, yet allow access from many different actors and not having it secluded and closed in as a walled garden in one place.
Got it. Okay.
Fits all of these tools together.
Got it. Okay. So for short, to make it easier, I'm just going to call it the KG, the knowledge graph. Now, one of the things I'm just going to ask you one more technical question before we move on to Gigo as well. And that is, you hear the word again, DeFi. So just to clarify this, you do have decentralized built into this knowledge graph. When you hear, the responses from other maximalists, perhaps in different camps, starting to question your own position, and even push back and say, are you, should you be using decentralized in the context that they're used to? What I wanted to clarify from you is it fair to say that you fit in the decentralized realm of business, the decentralized realm of, changing the game when it comes to supply chains? And really, should that be clarified right now so people understand that perhaps you really are?
Yeah, well, I don't believe there's any solid argument we could say that's not true, because I just believe that people are seeing decentralization as maybe in a bit of a narrow context. So thinking of a blockchain as a consensus-based network as the only decentralized technology. And in that sense, what decentralization really means is a couple of things. First of all, obviously not a central place in a physical sense where all of this whole system lives, whatever the system is, and that OriginTrail is a decentralized network of almost like 800 nodes right now. So all of them being separate entities, and none of them is really any sort of centralized or more preferred authority in this. So in this physical sense, that there's a check mark there. And then when it comes to the design of the system itself, how these actors work together, it has to be neutral. So that means that you do not give additional power to some specific actor in the network, which it is. It's completely symmetrical, and that those technical terms, every node in the network is the same. But what's different from blockchain is that not every node in the network keeps the same state, the same data. And that's what gives blockchain both great capabilities, but also huge bottleneck. And I'm sure everybody's up to speed with all the costs on, for example, Ethereum. This is by design. Ethereum is made to be a bottleneck, and that's why it's secure. And if you were to increase the block size or do something that sort, you're getting into other sets of problems where you're lowering the security of the platform, which is its key value proposition. Well, on the other hand, for example, OriginTrail as the network is not consensus-based, so not everybody has to keep the same data. So you get a lot of additional capability there. So that means We have much higher throughputs. There's a better infrastructure for data exchange. And also that allows things to be private. So that's a very important aspect when it comes to the legal side of it, for example, like GDPR or these supply chain companies, because nobody's going to come in and put a bunch of their data from the ERP system in a public blockchain and be like, oh, we're cool, we're decentralized. No, that's not going to happen because it's their data. They want to somehow usefully contribute this data potentially to a supply chain for some value, and that's this value exchange is where OriginTrail as the technology facilitates this. And another aspect of OriginTrail there is that it works with multiple blockchains, so therefore also contributing to decentralization, allowing you basically the choice. And that's also where the technology is neutral. If you are a Polkadot fan and you trust that technology, you can totally use Polkadot with OriginTrail. And if not, if you're a hardcore Ethereum maxi, there you go. It's been live for 3 years. And there's going to be multiple other chains that people are just going to have a choice on. And that's what we believe is the key point in decentralization, that you have a permissionless and also public environment where you can build something on public infrastructure to contribute to the network, but also have a very large choice, that you're not channeled into using a certain specific technology, that you do not favorize any certain vendor like SAP or whatever. And that's the only way that such infrastructure can actually win in the long term, because it is usable by everyone and inclusive in that sense.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely, decentralization in that context, together with DeFi, is where OriginTrail sits really well, because it connects all these things together.
Well said. Now, I'm going to move to Giga in a moment, but what's clear is that you are in every way agnostic with the knowledge graph itself. It really can plug into these new and also those, original key blockchain systems. You mentioned Ethereum works beautifully in that context. You mentioned Polkadot. There's huge potential there. And there's going to be others, I imagine, as well, Brenemir, as you start to really tweak that tech to be able to be compatible, to engage in that sense. It's obviously going to improve the performance. So Giga, I want to move to you now. Obviously, as one of the key founders of this, what's the implications? When we talked tech quite a lot, but what does it mean because of the multi-chain capacity, because of the potential to expand this in a truly interoperable and compatible sense? What does that mean for OriginTrail in terms of potential, in terms of growth, in terms of just spreading, I guess, the capacity of OriginTrail as a supply chain technology around the globe?
Yeah, well, OriginTrail is currently both enterprise ready, which means that we have gone through certain very much strict processes with the most important companies when it comes to assurance and compliance. So it is enterprise grade ready. On the other hand, OriginTrail is still very much open and inclusive, and it can be used in any environment, like Branimir explained. A Polkadot fan or Ethereum fan, whoever wants to kind of push forward its own decentralized technology can use knowledge graph on top of it, which points towards its inclusive nature. And inclusiveness is very much important because it enables evolution. And where we are currently with OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph, we believe that we're already 2 years ahead of anyone, but we're not stopping here. We want to make things even more advanced, and not only us as core or founding team of OriginTrail, but we want to bring in additional knowledge into the ecosystem so that OriginTrail can expand into additional ecosystems. So OriginTrail, in essence, it has no boundaries when it comes to its application, when it comes to its, let's say, limits of how it can be developed. It's just where we are currently. It's just the beginning, and we hope to see it go even forward. When it comes to its application power, European Union is right now very much investing into decentralized technologies, and we're part of 3 next generation internet initiatives supported by the European Commission, and now with the NGI Atlantic, which is an initiative both sponsored by the European Commission and also by the United States. We also have the National Science Foundation from the US joining the NGI Atlantic, and they're also going to be supporting US companies that are going to be using the components that we and other companies are also offering to the European Union in order to improve the human-centric solutions. And human-centric solutions essentially are the ones that are helping consumers or individuals to seize control over their own data. And this is something that OriginTrail can also help individuals do, because they can launch subgraphs within the OriginTrail network and then retain control over their data. So human centrism is highly important. Mm-hmm. And then going again towards the enterprise grade, enterprises see a high value in OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph. So all in all, we see right now with the inclusiveness principle, and inclusiveness is perhaps best represented by the Trace Alliance organization, which is very much open. We have no membership fee. We're also constructing courses for developers to see how to use decentralized knowledge graph. We see that we can open up everything to have more participants in the OriginTrail ecosystem. And then also the two values which are very close to our hearts, which is the value of usability. So although we're building something decentralized, it needs to be useful immediately. And also one of the reasons why we believe we survived through the bear market. Actually, there is no bear market for OriginTrail, but just in technical terms, we survived through the bear market because we were always monetizing the technology that we were developing. And not only monetizing, as we monetized, we validated. And through this validation, we came to something useful for the community. Thus, usability is a very important kind of value for us. And the value of neutrality, which is essentially being respected by delivering something open source which anyone can use. So all those three components, value components, usability, neutrality, and inclusiveness, we believe are kind of the secret sauce of OriginTrail, which we hope will make it very, very much successful in the future.
Yes, and I did actually notice that during the bear, it didn't really apply to you. And obviously that use case is going to be really important throughout the development, throughout the growth. And that proof of utility certainly did seem to correlate as people were engaging, experimenting, and using your whole suite of services. And also, more importantly, use was paramount above all things. And it always has been since we've talked. Now, Thomas, in that context, I wanted to ask you a bit more about use cases, because that has arguably grown since we last spoke. Or if it hasn't, more development, more time has been spent and more focused in really honing in on trying to make sure that each of these verticals that you apply to are translating into more business that we can talk about right now, rather than just the buzzwords. So things like food traceability, trusted factory, we've gone through this before, the fashion, the finance, and enterprise, and far more. But what I wanted to talk about with you, Thomas, was more the evidence, the empirical proof that what are some examples of more growth since we last spoke, so that people can understand just how much you expend beyond that previous year when we caught up to, and already then you've done so much.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the last year really saw a lot of things kick off in that full permissionless setting. So we were talking about scan a little bit before, which is within the realm of the trusted factor in kind of that whole assurance and compliance potential that is right now expanding from that scan use case also to the others. Obviously, supply chains are very important for us since it's our home turf. And within the rail sector, there's been a lot of work done that kind of we also touched upon briefly before. Food traditionally has been the first industry that we were present in. So obviously a lot of work taking place there. We are part of some of the largest EU projects that are currently ongoing, like the smart agri hubs, like the Meter, which are heavily focusing on digitalizing the European agriculture, as well as providing more interoperability when it comes to data exchanges within the food and agricultural sector. Another big project in there is the food safety market, which tackles the how to really enable easier process for farmers to go through compliance for retailers. But all of this really boils down again to utilizing the knowledge graph in this in the same kind of way to provide that interoperability, to provide that interconnectivity between different data points, and to give that data integrity, or turn it into knowledge, basically.
Okay. So look, I just want to jump in and sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to ask if you could give me something concrete that's really new, in the sense of, we've talked about many of those things before, but what are the things that perhaps we don't know with regard to examples in those verticals? Because, clearly you'd be really engaging all three of you, and arguably many others in the team, with how you can even further the knowledge graph in context in business. I want to have more specifics with regard to new developments in these verticals, because there's just so much scope when it comes to the knowledge graph. And I'm surprised, to be honest, it's not more applied by other teams around the world and experimenting like you have. So give us more of that, that key info that gives us that confidence that you've really started to tinker with the knowledge graph, really starting to expand inside these verticals or even beyond them, with clear names and proof of business being had.
Yeah, I mean, it's currently Trace Labs is really hitting on all cylinders, right? So we have our kind of roadmap already very much built, and we're kind of in this space to really extend the availability of knowledge graph to as many different teams, even as far as possible. So one thing that here is going to be very important is the evangelist program, which is going to kick off in the next quarter, which will allow to expand not only to kind of from Trace Labs, also to other actors within the field to be able to work on that. And then kind of working from that, we're also going to see a great expansion with the knowledge tools that are going to get available. So all this really tangible stuff that we've done previously. So the thing that Giga mentioned for World Economic Forum, which got recognized as the trusted repository for essential supplies information, the supply chain use cases, the assurance and compliance, the stuff we're doing with the personal information. So on utilizing the same knowledge graph technology to ensure the safety of your data as you browse the web, basically. All of this is going to get upgraded with these knowledge tools. And these are also going to be available then because being open source, they're going to be available to everyone that's building or is looking to build utilizing the knowledge graph. So taking the access control a step further by utilizing the knowledge tokens, taking the kind of marketplace further by using the knowledge marketplace, and the same thing with the wallet, giving you a chance to really kind of own your keys, own your knowledge approach, where you'll be able to have a much more flexible way to interact with the knowledge that pertains to you, as well as the knowledge tenders, which is like a way of how companies can or even individuals can crowdsource data. So the very same thing that we've done for essential supplies with COVID, you could do for anything. And knowledge here is really good because you can provide parameters and structures that really make this, whatever contributions, they can become immediately useful for you versus kind of the tedious work that you would have to do otherwise. And all of this is going to become available for not only the kind of limited to OriginTrail single chain implementation, but rather looking at it from a multi-chain universe approach, is that we're not doing something that would be then, or we're not connecting to the different blockchain ecosystems only to build resilience for OriginTrail, but also vice versa, to enable the functionalities of the knowledge graph or the decentralized knowledge graph to all these different universes. So whoever's working, building, doing something on Polkadot will be immediately able to also tap into this public infrastructure of OriginTrail knowledge graph. Right. Similarly to XDAI, bam, you'll be immediately able to do that, right? So
yes.
That's the thinking behind it.
And I really want to talk about XDAI, and any of you gentlemen could do that. But in the context of this new addition with the ability to now interoperate and to engage with all kinds of different blockchain systems, from layer 1 and even layer 0 as Polkadot's known, I wanted to ask you, Branimir, technologically, what does this mean for the design, that architecture that's the bedrock, including that tokenomic design and the token itself? That's the fuel for your whole architecture, your whole system, for it to really continue to fire. I would imagine that all of this integration, all of these bridges that you're building with your team are going to enhance this token as the representative, the utility marker for everything you're doing. So do you want to touch on that for those out there who are wondering how that's going to affect the token model, how it's going to affect business, how it's going to, better increase the performance overall of the technical systems built into OriginTrail?
Yeah, sure. So from the perspective of having the knowledge graph be able to communicate with multiple blockchains, one of the key things there is that basically the knowledge graph has, and the OriginTrail protocol, which is used to exchange data through this knowledge graph, has a certain set of features that it, or really activities that it requires from the blockchain layer to support. And that's why it's been designed like this from the start. So if you, from the original white paper, it has always been the idea to build a blockchain agnostic OriginTrail protocol. And that's why the protocol can operate on multiple chains with no problem. What it gets from these chains is really the ability to harness the particular value of that blockchain and their ecosystem. So being that, let's say, security or high efficiency in terms of speed, or any sort of features that this particular ecosystem has that the others do not have. And for example, the XDAI chain has fees denominated in the stable coin. So that's one of the key features that it defines it. And having that said, when it comes to the OriginTrail tokenomics, this in no way changes the tokenomics in the sense of having any difference in the way it's been designed. So as the protocol has been designed to be blockchain agnostic from the start, the tokenomics has been designed and to be unchanged in when the network spreads to multiple blockchains. So, pardon me, essentially there is no change to the token supply. It's all the same token living on different chains. And the difference there really being is how you use it. So when you use it on Ethereum, it's an ERC20 token, and it requires obviously Ether to be used as well. On XDAI, it requires DAI or XDAI, and on Starfleet, which is the blockchain that is being built by the OriginTrail community, there's actually no additional token required. So everything is going to be covered with Trace. That means both the blockchain fee, so Trace becomes the native token of this blockchain, as well as the fee for the services of the knowledge graph that is being the service is being performed by the node runners in the OriginTrail network. So these different ecosystems give different properties, and they're going to be basically allowing choice for differences in how you use the technology, but in terms of how the tokenomics work, there's really no change in that regard.
Okay, so let's talk about the token then in the context of economy, and we were going to touch on another economy in a very short moment with regard to knowledge economy. But I want to really get to the crux of how this token can really appreciate in value. You can't comment on that, so let's just stick with value. Now, in my thinking, as you start to create these bridges that are core technologically, that should technically also open up, much more expedient systems, much more efficient systems, and should create more, seamless usership within the scope of these varying blockchain systems. So surely that's going to have a big impact on the token itself, because it's going to open up more access.
100%. So this is like you really described it perfectly. In a way, it's the core functionality of what the token does, its utility, it hasn't really altered. So whenever you interact with the knowledge graph, you want to publish something on the ODN, on the OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph, you would utilize Trace to compensate the nodes holding it. And that basically, on the other hand, you have the same node that will be holding your data. They have to collateralize the same amount that they're getting compensated for in order to ensure that they don't perform any malicious actions. And by having that, you basically have the drivers to increase the value by utilization, because you're creating demand on one hand by those that want to publish something, but on the other hand, you're creating demand as well by those that have to put the Trace as a collateral. And at the same time, you're lowering the kind of available supply, because these tokens that are collateralized, they need to stay locked for the duration of the job, of how long the holding time is. And this can be really long jobs. So we're talking like 5 years or something like that, right? Where the tokens really can't move because they're stuck in the smart contract in order to perform the functions. So we have these good market forces for the tokenomics to be really successful. And another big thing that we've done in just kind of, it's ongoing right now, actually, it's called the staking. Staking is important because it's another thing that Trace will never have is more than 500 million. there's going to be always only this amount available. So it's finite and it's been pre-minted. So when we move to other blockchains, we need to create bridges. And as Starfleet is getting launched, what we've created is an opportunity for OriginTrail community to get boarded on Starfleet as soon as possible by staking their trace in Ethereum. And today we have we've seen quite an jaw-dropping owing response to the staking process, with almost 80 million trace now being staked, which is a very, very huge number, thinking that 500 million is all there ever is. So we're really nearing 20% of the total emission getting locked for a particular duration in time, which is at least 6 months. And that's going to be locked for utility. It's going to be locked for Starfleet in order to make use of what's being available there. So all the knowledge economy stuff and things like that. So for us to see that type of OriginTrail's community's commitment towards utility is really, really great. And it adds to the tokenomics, because obviously we have now this type of buy-in into the whole process.
Absolutely, Thomas. You took my next question, so I want to go to you, Jigar, as well, because, gentlemen, the staking is why I really wanted to talk to you, to be serious about this. Is that the implications of that staking element are a game changer for you? I think you know that. Congratulations also on the recent launch of your knowledge economy. Now, the whole tokenomic argument, if anyone's thinking about, from an investor perspective, from a speculator's perspective, the attention is on you now because of the word staking. Now, we've clarified, or you clarified rather, that the utility is still central to this. But what's interesting, and Jigar, I want to go to you on this, staking is another facet, another layer, another complexity built into the token model. The reality is that staking also means that people value that utility in such a way where they store it. That's really what it's about, for the utility in mind in the system. So what are your thoughts on this, given that, Thomas, you just said that 20% roughly is about the percentage stake now? What's the potential of this, guys? What is the potential of this knowledge economy, and what are the implications for all the people who have been supporting you? I would think it's very good going forward and moving ahead. It must be happy days for a lot of people who've been supporting you right from the beginning when they hear this system coming to the fruition with the launch of the knowledge economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the utility of the token has always been the most central for us, and we took the mission and the promise very seriously from the offset of the white paper. And the emission of half a billion of tokens is there not only to kind of give everybody who's interested in trace a speculative asset, but it's essentially there to put every trace out there to work. And when we say to work, we mean to work in the OriginTrail decentralized network on one chain or another. And although the hard cap for the staking period is 100 million, that's 20% of the total supply, we don't by no means believe that this is kind of the end of it. Once the bridge is established, the market itself will figure out where this optimal staking amount is, and we hopefully want to see in the future this amount to actually go up, so go even beyond 100 million of tokens being utilized within the OriginTrail for some useful purposes, in a way that Tomasz explained. And it's also interesting to read reports such as the Alpha Sigma Capital report that was issued I think last week. They were comparing the utility we have, so the OriginTrail has, and some other project, and it was interesting to see how further away OriginTrail ecosystem is in terms of adoption, the mainstream adoption. It's not only crypto adoption, it's the mainstream adoption. It's like supply chains are 2/3 of the world's GDP, so we're talking about a huge thing. And comparison also against, comparing OriginTrail also against other market capitalizations of other projects that are perhaps older, or perhaps they have a VC backing, and these are typically projects that have perhaps a better standing on the exchanges, etc., because they're backed by the bigger guys. Whereas we have always been betting on the adoption. It's interesting to compare the utility with the utilities of other projects, and how much lower the market cap is compared to those. And this is where you actually see the potential. I'm not trying to kind of do the comparison at all times, but because we're in this industry, it makes sense to kind of benchmark with other projects.
Absolutely.
And this is where I would also encourage you to look into the Alpha Sigma Capital report. it's an interesting read.
Yes, and I think you raised a very important point, and we need to get real about this, is that you don't necessarily need every big brand of exchange to prove your utility. That's something that OriginTrail has always been clear about. Their focus has been on making sure that token reflects the endeavor you're trying to build, which is using the technology, using this core and cutting edge system with the knowledge graph to then build out something that is plausible and provable through the utility model. So having 1, 2, 3, 4 exchanges, really from the non-speculative argument, it really is, paramount that you just simply have some of them, so that you can be actionable, you can be utilized, you can engage with this token. As with regard to which exchanges, I don't think that's necessarily the big thing. But what are your thoughts on the speculative position? We do have to ask that. If you're getting pressure from the community, when next exchange, what do you say to that kind of response?
Yeah, I mean, OriginTrail, we made sure that OriginTrail is presented to all the crucial exchanges, all the tier 1 exchanges. We are being identified as a very, very strong contender for the tier 1s. That said, the ball is always on their court. So exchanges are the ones that are deciding which assets to list. Trace is obviously a very interesting asset. But then again, it very much depends on their kind of, it's their arbitrary decision as to which assets they're going to launch and when they're going to launch it. And our job is to make sure that that we're compliant with everything, that there is a community, there is activity, that the token has utility, and of course, this speculative part is also important for us. It's the speculative part that actually gave life to OriginTrail.
Exactly.
When there was no code. So you always need speculation always comes first. But what we also believe is that there should be a very reasonably short lead time between merely speculation and utility. And we kind of service that. That said, exchanges are important.
And Giga, it's interesting because when I was first learning about you, it was always that pre-utility bet for any speculator. Totally valid because they're looking at that prospective utility. It's the same now. It's just that the difference is they're betting on more and more utility to come, more proof of growth. So I sense from you, as I always do, more, a little bit more than what you're telling us. I think that it's possible that you know a bit more about these tier 1s. I think that also, it is in their camp. It's definitely a criteria sheet for them, and you have to meet their criteria. But I still sense that there's communication. There's something going on where I think that you're optimistic at the very least. Am I right that, you're confident that tier 1s can happen?
Yeah. I think it's going to, sooner or later, it's going to be a differentiation point for the exchanges to be listing, strong utility tokens such as Trace is. OriginTrail is going to survive, is going to thrive in the future, and we are confident also when it comes to tier 1s, and above all, we're confident about the utility itself, and we are strong believers in utility. And as long as we maintain and build up and improve the utility, I'm not skeptical that the tier 1s will also come in and grab the token.
To be honest, I'm surprised they haven't yet. So we can only wait in anticipation. But again, the real key aspect of this is the utility token itself. What it does and what you're building. But good luck with the listings. Obviously, it does help with the overall interest, the speculation, and more importantly, just the attention that you definitely deserve and need as you keep building. Now, to any of you gentlemen on this one, I wanted to ask you more about XDAI with regard to something Thomas mentioned earlier with the Starfleet. It's a big deal to have these integrated and built in. It further strengthens the legitimacy of what you're trying to do, and also it brings in the narrative and conversations of many of these pre-existing stablecoins that have been supported by the likes of Ethereum, for example. So what does it mean, gentlemen, for that crossover in communities? The XDAI as well, inclusion for the future of your whole system, of OriginTrail itself, especially with bounty pools as well being built in.
Yeah, maybe I can take the first step, and then Branimir, you feel free to kind of extend on the technical side. So from the side of the importance of XDAI for us, for OriginTrail ecosystem, it's definitely there. because like you mentioned before, so different ecosystems can offer you different efficiency gains and different kind of benefits between each other. And what XDAI really has done well here, obviously, is denominate the fees in the in DAI, so have a stable coin, and as well they've managed to kind of operationalize a fairly long-lasting already the proof of authority network, right? So it actually functions. It has that type of resilience already now that you would expect from a more mature blockchain. So that was really important for us as well, to have that type of network, which we feel that is something that could be a good extension for OriginTrail, as well as it allows us a crossover, which makes sense because a lot of the high level of compatibility between Ethereum and XDAI, obviously, having the EVM and all the rest. And I'll let Branimir to go into that. But from the point of view of what it enables for OriginTrail, it enables for us to tap into those efficiencies. So it enables us a decoupling from the ETH gas fees, which currently are going through the roof and beyond. I don't know how many roofs more are there to be blown up.
Especially at the moment.
But, yeah, so that goes pretty wild. And XDAI obviously has that benefit that we can get there, as well as obviously we want to really battle test the ODN multi-chain, right? So that's a big thing for us as well. It's the OriginTrail node for the first time is going to be listening to two main chain, mainnet implementations of blockchains. So for that purpose as well, we've looked at the whole staking process as a good way to validate not only Starfleet, but also this multi-chain first step. And since obviously the narrative was really to provide tokens towards staking in order to support this utility enhancement that's taking place over the course of the entire process, we have had a certain bounty pool that was intended for this type of testing also to be utilized, and saw this process as a way to utilize the same community's effort that's already taking place with the staking and give a bounty basically for the testing of the XDAI implementation of OriginTrail. So everyone that's going to be taking part in the staking process, 5 million of trace is going to be distributed proportionally between those that are staking in this process. So let's say that at current 80 million, we would be dividing the 5 million between all the 80 million that are staked on XDAI. For the testing of the OriginTrail's implementation on XDAI. So that's going to be an important thing for the OriginTrail as an ecosystem to battle test this implementation, and as well a good motivation as well for those that are taking part in the staking process.
Absolutely, and it does seem like because of that addition with that I guess that incentive and that carrot, it's going to have a major impact once again to really strengthen more users, more engagement, more attention. So Branimir, from a technical perspective, surely these developments are really exciting from your perspective. You've been part of the reason why they exist.
Yeah, and it's been a great experience working with developers from Parity and Polkadot, and we also are collaborating with the XDAI guys, and it's been great to see so much support because everybody is really excited to be working together, and that's what we really believe as a core value of the company of the ecosystem of OriginTrail is really to be inclusive and to help each other out. And in this way, it's really great to see this connect because we both learn from each other, but we also help each other grow. And in that sense, part of, for example, the Polkadot initiative that's going on within the Trace Alliance of the OriginTrail is also the work through the Substrate Builders program. So the Starfleet blockchain is actually being built on Substrate 2.0 code, and it's being built together with the Parity team. So we're basically having internal milestones. We work together with them. They review what we build and bounce ideas with us constantly. And it's just been an amazing experience because this is what I believe the open source decentralized movement of should be of developers. We should really collaborate together and help each other out rather than the other way, separating and sort of like being competitive. I believe truly in that utility is going to show and win this competitive race if there is any, rather than us trying to not help each other. So in that sense, it's really cool, and it's I mean we're learning a lot as well from them constantly, but particularly through the Substrate Builders program with Parity Team, who have, in our opinion, they're like the Real Madrid of blockchain.
Well, I really respect what you said, and I'm really listening rather than responding in that sense, because you are in a position where you are one of those key developers with the knowledge graph. That's really a cornerstone of your own technology. It is a marker of innovation. But then for you to say, you're connected to all of these different teams, especially Parity, what that says to us, those listening, is that it gives us confidence that you're not only engaging in technological communities or techie communities, but to go back to that question, that point that we were talking about with Brenemir with regard to the value of having someone like Parity, having someone that's, well respected in the both blockchain and technical space involved, having that dialogue between OriginTrail. What it does is it gives us confidence as those who are really looking in, making sure that you have that ability to not only reach the key technical players, but the communities themselves. So I guess, for those parties who are looking at understanding the value of communities themselves right across the crypto space and beyond, you're engaging not only in that sense, Brenemir, with the Parity parties, but also for Ziga and for Thomas, it means that it opens up dialogue, conversations, potential in those communities, whether it be from business, whether it be from just the community support. So have you noticed that, gentlemen? Have you noticed that the expansion and support of OriginTrail has grown as they start to see that you're A, agnostic by design, B, you're different than a blockchain, and C, you can tap into the blockchains?
Yeah, I think it's really a true potential for OriginTrail, and as well from kind of vice versa for other blockchain ecosystems to benefit from OriginTrail, right? And these type of collaborative approaches of technological components which are complementary makes a lot of sense, but it makes a lot of sense also from the community's perspective, right? So as we look to the landscape of crypto projects, it is about communities and who, it's about the people behind it, and it's about the societal movement as much as it is about the technological one. And in that sense, it's an important distinction, to have these communities morph together, and ideally also gather value from each other, which really kind of comes from that complementarity of approaches. So from someone like Polkadot, who actually has a lot of same thinking around how the technology should be working, or should be, what's the values behind the technology and how it should be functioning. It's very good because that those same values are also represented by the community. So there should, by definition, be a very good complementarity between that as well.
Right.
And the builders working on that to utilize the same tech. So yeah, I think it's a lot of value to be unlocked.
Yeah, and Ziga, also just the Web3 connotation as well. You've always had that embedded in the mindset of OriginTrail, and that's certainly the case with the narrative and the value add for Polkadot as well. Trying to be that glue, and we've talked about that as an analogy for you, but it's the same for them in that you want to bind things together, bring the best of blockchain, bring the best of knowledge graph to the fore for all the use cases intended. So Ziga, I wanted to ask you as part of the closing, discussion, because it's been a lengthy interview, what excites you in the roadmap? What's something that is really going to set apart, do you think, even more the OriginTrail development and movement as you progress for the rest of the year? And gentlemen, think about that question as well, because I want to come to you with something like that, where you can showcase something that you think is really going to set OriginTrail apart in your different fields.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, technologically, definitely the multi-chain path that we have undertaken since recently is going to make the greatest leap forward in terms of the efficiency gains, in terms of the economies of scale and scope OriginTrail can support, and on the other hand, how many ecosystems OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph can actually help establish new value propositions. On a more mainstream side, we're very much excited to be working with the organizations such as the GS1 Global. Next month, actually next week, we are going to be presenting kind of the largest breakthrough applications using the GS1 Global standards. And GS1 as an organization is also kind of built on the decentralized basis. And it's very interesting to see how not only in crypto we find like-minded ecosystems, but also in mainstream we see like-minded ecosystems that could gain a lot by also tapping into OriginTrail's potential. So huge things going on there. And then kind of the vanilla partnerships, although they are very much important for us, and I call them vanilla because they're also from mainstream, like the railway companies, the British Standards Institution, the usual suspects, retailers, even the whiskey company from Ireland that was backed by Bono from U2. It's a very exciting thing, especially for Tomasz. He has a soft spot for single malts, so that's going to be most probably for him the most exciting thing. I could go on and go on. There are so many exciting things that are coming towards us, working with private sectors, public sectors, technological advancements, and it's very exciting and very beautiful to see that community is also chipping in by contributing educational pieces. And shout out to Amos Tomas. He's our lead educator now. He's going to be creating courses for developers to get to know how OriginTrail is being set up, what's its value proposition, how to run a node, etc. Even most probably how OriginTrail is leveraging Polkadot. So there's most probably also going to be a Polkadot session on that. So what we're personally most excited for, I guess, is that we have a community and business community coming in and figuring out ways how to utilize OriginTrail and how to increase awareness about OriginTrail.
Absolutely, and just on that note, I'll make sure I put the ambassador links in the links below with all of your information, because I do want to support his work. He does outstanding work. He's been there for years and he's never wavered. He's stuck by you, and that's the mark of, you know, a really good, strong community. So congratulations to the ambassadors that lead this out. Now, what about you, Tomas? Sorry, go ahead, Ziga.
Yeah, so it's Amos, and then it's also Guinness Stash. So Guinness Stash, he created the video like a year and a half ago, even before that. And he was one of the first people to figure out what's the value proposition of the decentralized knowledge graph. And he's also now, leading the initiative of having the monthly AMAs with us. So just wanted to shout out to him.
Absolutely. And I'll make sure 100%. I do speak with them regularly as much as I can and drop into the DMs. And that's because, out of respect for them, I have watched them there for years. They haven't stayed, they haven't been one of those people who have been ambassadors for short term. And that's where the respect comes. So thank you, boys, for all the work you do, and any other ambassadors that are coming on board in the future. Now, Tomas, obviously, Ziga's taken it away, as he does with all of the, things that excite him. But what about you, mate? What about that one big thing that you think that perhaps we need to know more about, clarifying things really that sets Origin apart as we move forward into 21?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a great chance to speak about so many great things that are coming up in OT. It's very difficult to find one that I grab onto for 2021. There's definitely a lot of adoption excitement that's happening within our team, as well as within the entire ecosystem. There's tech developments that are en route, which are great. But I guess at the moment, what's really striking to me is the fact that the community support for staking is just so large, and there is still, there's still space for those community members which haven't engaged yet but would like to, or are thinking about it, to get involved in this process. So if guys, if I'd have to leave it with one thought outside of what Ziga already spoke about, it would be to as a call to action to see if to learn more about the staking process, to learn more about how trace utility is going to get amplified within this year, and to get involved, to become kind of an active participant within this path towards the OriginTrail knowledge economy. And it does start with the boarding process. So make sure to check this out.
Well said, mate. Now, I like that term, amplified utility. That's a really nice, safe way to say things that I can say, which is make sure, guys, you really put the two and two together with the token and the staking. Use that common sense. It was built in for design. It was built in for very deliberate action to showcase what this utility can do. Now, let's go to you, Branimir, for that final point, that piece of the pie that we need to have confidence in. That's the engine that fires the next step. Mate, what are you excited about in 221 technologically that just really consolidates everything that Tomas and Ziga have said?
I think that's the easy one. So the excitement is really on the end of launching the knowledge economy tools, which are coming in right after launching the Starfleet blockchain. So all of these together are really exciting because they're both going to unlock new capability and new utility for the ODN, but also we expect a much larger utilization of the technology. Right now, there's actually a holdback due to these high prices and just like the conditions on the blockchain being pretty much impossible for some of the use cases to start. So I'm really looking forward to that. And to be honest, what I'm excited about is to see really the technology put to a new strain test, because it's going to be a very big load. And I'm excited to see how we handle this and then how we build it to be even more stronger. So together with our community, obviously, because they are the ones running the whole network.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. I really mean that. And it has been a lengthy interview, but that's because I so rarely get all three of you together. Now, things like ODN, things like knowledge graph, things like knowledge economy, things like potential because of the staking, things like innovation, all of these different movements with regard to engaging with the real world, engaging with major international organizations that are bringing the knowledge graph to the fore right beside blockchain. So remember, there is a difference here with the way they're designed. That knowledge graph is something that sets them apart, their secret sauce. And now they're really bringing that to new and innovative blockchains, layer 0 and layer 1. So gentlemen, we have a storm here. I've had a blackout one, so I want to make sure we get this wrapped up. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure speaking to all three of you. I wish you all the very best, and make sure you book me in for another session when we get an update for all things OriginTrail, as you really continue to showcase you are powering that blockchain with something different, and that's the knowledge graph.
Thanks very much, Brad. It's been a pleasure and looking forward to the next one already.
You're welcome, guys, as always.